I cannot remember the first time I ever met the little vermin. It may have been at Paoli when they were trying to unload the bikes, and I broke Patty's number plate showing them how to do it. He was pure energy. He lived life
I watched Dylan grow. I watched Dylan on the track become just more of a man, ride fast and quick. But I remember watching him over in Indiana race when he was just starting on his little KTM 85. Again, number 316.
I'm really dirty today because I felt like Dylan would just want me to get on camera and stay dirty, because I know that's what he would do. So I decided not to shower after I rode today. But I met Dylan in kindergarten, actually. I went to Wheeler Elementary School, and I was in kindergarten, and Dylan was in second grade. He was 2 grades ahead of me. But I was on a higher reading level than my kindergarten class, so they moved me to the 1st grade class. So I got to sit with Dylan, and we became friends. So I've been friends with him for my whole life.
I don't know why, but for some reason Patty and Tony let him go riding with me, and he was just fun. He and Matthew both went with me at first, and then Matthew kind of lost interest after a while and started playing with those silly Land Rovers, and I don't know, Dylan just would he would do anything for anybody.
Well, December 30th, 2011 started like it had the previous 2 years, because we had been traveling to Durhamtown for a retreat where we ride dirt bikes and study the Word. Except that year it had a lot of extra excitement because the crowd was so big. And Dylan first and Tex McGraw were leading the youth. Mark Nichols was one leading for the adults. And with a lot of anticipation, we were all very excited to be here. It was a pretty day, except it was really cold, freezing cold. And Dylan was involved, again, teaching the youth. So we had a session the night before, and the adults were in one area of the camp, the youth were in the other area, and just had a lot of fun that evening, picking and laughing and teasing each other. And the next morning we got up for breakfast. It was again a pretty day, but it was really cold. And just in his normal style, Dylan was serving. He helped Ronnie change a flat tire on his dirt bike, and then he was off riding. We all took off. It was a very light, fun day. We were just riding all over the place at Durhamtown. And I remember I was riding in an area called the Redlands. It's a big gully where you dive in and get to really bite off as much as you want to chew in terms of a hill climb. And I'm just coming out at a real normal pace, and I see Kramer going to the call box, and I said, "What's up?" I could just tell by looking at your face. And you said, "Dylan's hurt bad."
I remember we're on track 5, me and my dad, and this was my 2nd time on a bike since I broke my leg. So I was riding real slow, and we come down track 5, and going over the whoop sections in the distance, I see somebody's down, and the bike's on top of them. And as I get a little closer, I see Tex McCraw pull a bike off, and it's green number plates, 316 on the side, and lays the bike over. So me and my dad stop, and we park our bikes right behind me, and we lay them against the trees. and Dylan's on his side, his arms kind of up, and so we sat there and we waited because we just thought he was knocked out. And I remember my dad saying, well, he's just knocked out, let's give him a minute until he wakes up. So we sat there. About that time, Randy Hutchings pulls up. Finally, Dylan, and he hadn't woken up yet, so Randy and my dad rolled him over, and they realized Dylan wasn't breathing, so they take his helmet off. My dad yells at me, Kramer, go to the call box. So I jump on my bike, and I take off down the whoop section again and ride up to the top, and I find a call box. So I grab it, and it's a radio, so I radio to the EMS to say, we have a rider down on track 5, we need help immediately. So I put it back in the mailbox, they radioed back, we're on our way.
So I took off and went down on track 5 and rode around to the south piece of track 5, and I saw Ronnie and Randy giving Dylan mouth to mouth. And Dylan had a dirt bike crash, and he had passed away. And it was a real emotional time. I had never actually witnessed that. But I saw him, his body was very much at peace, and I believed that the minute I saw him, he was already in heaven. Ronnie was working to resuscitate him, and so was Randy, and just within minutes, I mean really short amount of time, the Durhamtown medical staff was right there with all of their equipment and that sort of thing, and everybody tried feverishly to just bring him back, but I think his spirit was already in heaven.
I'd take off running down track 5, and I see the EMS has already got there, and they have Dylan pulled off to the side of the track, and they already have all the medical equipment on him and everything, and they were doing CPR, and I saw my dad there holding Dylan's hand, and I'm just telling him to breathe, Dylan, breathe, Dylan, and Mitch Barnes turns around, he grabs me, he says, Kramer, you need to go back up to the lodge and take everybody else with you. So I grab Chris Akaiden and Cody Hardesty were there, and we take off track 5 and up. And I knew when I saw them giving CPR that it was more severe than we had thought. And so we were going back to the lodge, and I pull off to the side because Mark Nichols is sitting there, and I say, Mark, Dylan's hurt real bad, and Mark says, yeah, he said he knew. So we immediately stop, and I throw my bike down, and we say a prayer, and I continue up to the lodge, and I see the ambulance, and my dad jumps in, and I see Mike around the side.
I rode up to the Mike's house area where we're parked today, and Mitch was there, and he was doubled over crying, and when I saw that, I knew something was really bad. And he said, Mike, I don't think Dylan's going to make it. I said, where is he? And he pointed this direction, and I headed this way just in time to see the ambulance pull up, and they brought Dylan out. And they cut his jersey open, pulled his boots off. They wouldn't let me up in the back of the ambulance. They were working on him. I went around to the side door. I begged God over and over. He had the most relaxed look on his face. And I knew he was gone. never understand.
I just had this feeling that something was wrong, and I just threw off all my gear and sat inside by myself for a while, and till I heard that he had passed away. And it was the worst day of my life, because I knew I'd lost one of my best friends.
Actually, I think when Dylan was on the track, Ronnie was running through the people that were at home and who could maybe go and spend some time with Patty and Tony, and I think I was one of the first people that came to mind since I was serving as the student ministries pastor. And I think he was one of the first ones that called me, because I just immediately jumped in the car and went to Patty and Tony's house, and I remember Noelle and I just in the car praying on the way there, just so terrified. Really, I think is the best emotion, just because when you get news like that of a friend that has passed, it's just so shocking, and knowing that we were going to be the first ones there to maybe even break the news to Patty and Tony was terrifying, because I just knew that it would be so broken and so hurting.
Well, Dylan does have a legacy through our FCA motocross work. He had a spirit of helpfulness, and the outpouring at the funeral was just huge. And one thing that I thought was great, interesting, fantastic about his funeral is all the non-Christians that showed up. The people just who had observed Tony and Patty and Matthew and Dylan, and because they admired the work ethic of Dylan, it just drove a huge crowd. And the front of the church was adorned with all kinds of trophies that he had won racing, and I think his violin was up front, because Dylan was also a good student. I think that's what really made him a complete package, just because he was a good student and he was a Christian young man, and he had a chance to demonstrate at school his leadership and demonstrate out at dirt biking.
I think what he left with the rest of us here in FCA Motocross is just an example of Christ, and something to look forward to, serving, looking for opportunities, being a better person. And he always had a smile on his face, so I was just telling somebody this morning, I don't remember a time of him just sitting around, just waiting whatever's next. I just don't remember that. I mean, I'm sure he sat, but I just don't remember that. He was just always ready to go. And so we didn't have a whole lot of kids his age in the ministry at the time, I don't think. A bunch of our kids that have grown up in the ministry since I've been on staff, a couple years younger than him or so. And so I think a lot of people looked up to him. But really, it's not just the kids looking up to him. I think he just impacted everybody.
Yeah, I just think that all of us remember Dylan, and especially when our bike breaks, and it's like, man, we just need Dylan here. Or when something is broken, man, Dylan was the guy that always fixed stuff. So, we definitely miss him when we're cleaning up or trying to fix something. Or he definitely leaves a legacy, and is certainly still missed.
If I could have said one thing, Dylan, I don't know, because I had talked to him just before at the Redlands. Me and him were talking, and I just remember him saying something funny like, "We're gonna get you back to where you used to be. We'll get on track 5. We'll start riding like we used to." Something like that, because I had just gotten back on the bike. I just saw him looking up at the sky, and I kind of said my goodbyes right then, because I knew he was gone. So
But our heart goes out to Tony and Patty. When I see them, my heart goes out to them. When I rode by the accident site, my chest just really started beating fast, and I didn't want to ride there anymore. But I just went there to think about Dylan and think about how positive a role model he was.
I miss you, Dylan. I know I'm going to see you in a while. Sure wish you were here. I'm done.